first practice, pretty typical. A lot of excitement, a lot of enthusiasm. Guys excited to get back out on the field. Coaches excited. Yeah, as you know, with Marcus out there, there's a lot of guys that want to please and make the defensive coordinator notice them. New quarterback. So where some things are a little bit of the same. There's nice change. So a combination of continuity and change is always good. So there was a great energy at practice, and one down. Hopefully, 14 more to go. We went through this last year where we got one down, and we were pretty excited about what had gone down in the practice, and then of course we didn't practice again. So, again, we had to be very careful with, what we did today, because it was a bit of a shortened preparation, when we had to stop for a week. But guys were in great shape, and we got a lot accomplished today. So with that, turn it over to you guys and any questions that you might have.
Okay, sorry about that. We will go to Pete Sampson first.
Bryan, I was interested in the dynamics of Jack Cohn at quarterback. You've done grad transfers before, but not at quarterback. How do you put him in a position to lead, and how do you sort of encourage guys to follow a new voice and a new face that maybe they don't know?
Yeah. So the first thing that Jack and I talked about was that our group is here at Notre Dame is one where you will get immediate support from these guys because it's Notre Dame, and when you come here, it's all about supporting each other, and we just have that built into our culture. So I said, you don't have to worry about pretending to be somebody else. Just be who you are. And they know who you are. I mean, you've got a lot of recognition for the things that you've accomplished already in the Big Ten at Wisconsin. So the guys know who you are. Be who you are. Be authentic. When you're authentic, guys trust you. And look, I mean, when you're starting quarterback, you already have great traits, and his work ethic is outstanding. So we knew a lot of that about him already. And so he came in here and has fit in extremely well because he's been authentic. He's been who he is and hasn't tried to pretend. And naturally, leadership will follow that position. And that's kind of what's happened.
John Fineran, we'll go to you next with the AP. Go ahead.
Hi, Bryan. Good to see you. And
hey, John.
If you could bring us up to date on where you got.
John, you got cut off.
Situations that have occurred since the end of last season, and also what players are probably you're gonna hold back on this spring who are coming back from surgery and injuries and things like that.
John, I didn't get the first part of your question. You kind of got cut off there. So we can have you repeat that as I kind of answer the second half of the question. Is it injuries in terms of who are we holding back on? If you're cleared for practice, we want to get you back out there and compete. So from that perspective, once you're cleared for competition and to practice, we'll practice you and give you the opportunities to work on your technique and especially if you're in the defensive group, we want some continuity there. Injuries that will, preclude them from being involved, as you know, are the big ones, right? Patterson won't have a spring ball. I think from a defensive standpoint, I think Lacey will not because of the shoulder. I think it's probably unlikely that we'll see, Kevin Austin, from an offensive standpoint. But other than that, the guys that are capable of practicing, they'll be involved. So what was the first part of the question?
The first part of the question was how has the program balanced things since the end of last season with the COVID stoppage that you had and going forward with COVID?
How have we balanced it? Well, we had to shut it down for about a week where we had some positive tests. I think our guys did such a great job during the year. They may have grown a little weary and maybe let their guard down a little bit while they were away from the building, but they've been really good. We've gotten back on track. We've had 2.5 weeks of really good training leading into spring practice. We're back to our testing. Not that we weren't testing, but our regular testing. We'll test again tomorrow. So the guys are back in that routine. I think they got away from the routine a little bit, maybe, and maybe got a little bit sloppy. But that's been cleaned up, and I think they understand how important it is now to get these 15 practices in.
Okay, we'll go to Tyler James next.
Hey, Bryan, obviously you have a lot of guys on the offensive line you need to replace. How much of a sense do you have of which offensive linemen are battling for specific positions, or is it more throw everyone out there this spring and see how things shake out?
I think it's somewhere in between. We have a plan, right? But, so much for plans as you go through the season. But Tyler, as you know, since I've been here, we've always lost really good players, and it's my job and our coach's job is to, replace them and maintain the standard of excellence that we've had around here. Being in the college football players 2 out of the last 3 years doesn't give you a pass in saying, well, we lost all these players. All it means is that's the expectation. So we got to get these guys ready. So the offensive line is going to be, a couple of guys we know, like Zeke is slotted in at that center position, Zeke Correll. Josh Lugg is going to play a tackle, but most likely will slide back into the guard position when the season starts. And so you're going to see a big battle for one of the tackle positions and, one of the guard positions. So, you're going to see a little bit of everybody. Tosh Baker, we saw him starting in one of our units today. Dylan Gibbons was starting. John Dirksen was starting. We really like the progress of Carmody is coming along. I mentioned Christophic, the young freshmen, both the young freshman linemen that are mid-years got a chance to step in with the second group. So kind of a little bit of both of what you said is that everybody's going to get into the mix. We kind of have a plan of how this should look. Quinn Carroll is another guy that's had a really good offseason. So it's a lot of names. We got to kind of sort it out as it goes here.
Great. We'll go to Eric Hansen from the South Bend Tribune next.
Hey, Bryan, a couple for you. One is beyond Jack Cohn, what do you want to see from those other quarterbacks in terms of their competition? And then the second part of it, you mentioned a couple of mid-years. Who's impressed you besides those two, among those 14 kids that came early?
Well, I only have really the weight room to go off of. Today was, a first practice. I really couldn't give you much today other than they showed up on time and they got their gear on. Let me answer the first part of your question first. What do we want from Drew Pond? We want Drew to be the starter. We're not handing this job to Jack Cohn. So, Drew's been in the program. So we want him in the spring, to be competing for this starting position. And they'll have an opportunity to do that where they get first team reps. And then Tyler Tyler just got here and he hasn't played football for a year. So you got to understand there's some development that has to take place there. And he had a nice practice today, but, he doesn't know our offense and, just the basics is really what he's trying to feel good about today. And so he's got some, obviously some work to do from that perspective, but he's a quick study. He's a really good athlete. But that, I hope, answers the question relative to what we want Drew to do. And that is, compete to be the starter. The guys that have impressed me, I mean, all of these kids, when they came on campus, they've had to deal with COVID. They've had to deal with a very different kind of academic environment where they've been in class and then hybrid, and doing some, online learning and then, really, rigorous conditioning kind of element. So they've been all impressive. Nobody is kind of not held up to the standards that we set here. So I've been impressed with all the guys. Some might be, closer to playing in their first year. We'll see how that kind of pans out over the next couple of weeks. And I'm going to spend some time with you over, the next couple of weeks, and I'll be able to give you a better sense of where we are over the next couple of weeks.
Brian, can you still hear me?
I can.
Is Brendan Clark out then for the spring?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably going to be able to start throwing a little bit more, but in terms of being able to get in the mix, if you will, it's going to be difficult for him to do that relative to the timetable.
Thank you.
I will go to Patrick Engel with Blue and Gold next. Go ahead.
Brian, kind of following up on Drew, what have you noticed and been told about his mindset through winter workouts as far as how he's approaching that challenge and having another body come into the competition in Jack?
Oh, it doesn't faze him. I mean, they're excited that Jack's here. They love having another quarterback in the room that has experience and pushes the group. So it's been a great relationship. Drew's built for this, right? I mean, he's always been told that he's, not good enough or, can't be the starter or can't win and he relishes these opportunities and, he's always succeeded. So this doesn't affect Drew at all. It just motivates him even more.
Great. We'll go to Tim Priester next.
Brian, who are the candidates to replace Owusu Koromoa, number one? We've heard talk about Myron Tagovailoa-Amosa moving to a defensive end position as well. And then following up on Brendan Clark, did he have surgery on that knee or is he going to need surgery?
No, he had surgery on the knee.
Okay.
He had surgery right before the bowl game or the bowl game or the playoff game. So, what are we talking about? Late December. So January, February, March, April, May, June. He'll be 6 months in June, 7 months in July.
Okay.
Where he got that knee repaired. We're going to do things that allow, to get another linebacker on the field. I don't know that we're replacing, the kind of player that we had with Owusu. So you're going to see a combination of players out there. We know if we're in strictly a rover situation, you'll see, Pryor, you'll see Moala, you're going to see Kaiser out there. And at times you might even see 3 linebackers. So I think it's a combination of all of those things, Tim.
Samoji with Blue and Gold, go ahead. If you can hear me.
Yes. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Follow up on that. Tim asked also about Myron Tagovailoa-Amosa.
Oh yeah, Myron. Yeah. He's going to play some defensive end for us, the big end position. We think he's certainly capable of, giving us the kind of solid technique necessary to play that big end position. He's got the size, he's got the strength, he's put on some weight. So he's up for it. He's excited about it. He was out there with the first group today and did a nice job for us. So yeah, he'll get some work at the end position.
Okay, and then the question I wanted to ask was, last year, because of your strength at the tight end, you played to it, and obviously we're in a lot of 12 personnel. Do you still see yourself as that type of identity on offense, or do you want to get maybe some other alignments involved, even though the receiving core is extremely young, or let's say more so inexperienced?
I'm not really sure. I mean, I think we're capable of doing a number of different things on offense, and I think our personnel will dictate that. We know we're capable of running, 4 or 5 wides and playing in a no-back set. I kind of know how to throw the ball 55, 60 times a game if we need to. But we also know how to run direct snap and play physical football, downhill football. It's really going to be about the way this offense sets up and the personnel that we feel gives us the best chance of being successful on offense and playing, complete football, offense, defense, and special teams. So I think it's yet to be determined. We know that we are going to use this spring to kind of get an identity offensively, and then we'll build on that going into, preseason camp and into the fall.
Okay, we'll go to the next question will be from Bryan Driskell. Go ahead.
Hey, Coach, I have 2 questions for you. First, offensively, obviously a lot of new receivers stepping in after losing Javon and Ben. What have you seen from those guys kind of through winter workouts and into first practice? And then kind of on the other side of the ball, similar situation to corner, lost Nick McLeod, a lot of young guys battling. What have you seen from them through winter camp and into this first practice of the spring?
Yeah, I mean, we're really pleased with the work. Look, we have a standard and they've lived up to that standard. And, Brian, you even mentioned 3 guys that weren't even, part of the mix here, last spring. And so, when you talk about McKinley and Ben and Nick, we didn't have any expectations that they'd even be on the field for us. And so here we are another year later, and, Clarence Lewis has gotten great, obviously, work last year. We know what a guy like Avery can do. We know what a guy like Mayer could do. So I would argue that we have probably more known commodities coming back this year than maybe we did going into last season. And that kind of sorted itself out. So, kind of long answer here. It's going to sort itself out. There's some really good players. Some of them aren't in the spring, but there's plenty of good players that are in the program that will get a chance to step up and help this football team.
Great, and we're going to go next to John Brice. Go ahead with your question.
Yeah, Brian, whether it's Jack Cohn or the mid-year guys, what are the things you look for early in spring camp that sort of let you know they've been doing everything they're supposed to be doing to be ready for camp and to maximize the spring opportunity?
Their attention to detail of the technical and the tactical pieces, because we know, their conditioning element's going to be outstanding because that's attended to, daily by our strength staff. And, Coach Bayless oversees that and does a tremendous job. So we're not worried about, there's always the ongoing need for our, peak power and strength and nutrition. And that's an ongoing battle. But we know that when we get to spring ball, they're ready to go and compete. When they get into the practice, what I'm looking for is the ability to play the position and not just be the boundary corner, but you can play corner, wide corner, not just be the field safety, but you can be, the field safety, the rolled up safety, not just the W receiver, but you can play W, X, and Z. I want our players to understand the position and how it fits within the defensive structure. So just a smart football player, somebody that pays attention to detail and really learns the technical and tactical pieces to play this game. And that's really a huge part of spring practice.
All right, up next we have Andrew Mentock. Go ahead.
I know the voting for the one-time transfer rule was tabled, but with that likely coming sometime in the near future, is that something you're already kind of able to prepare for now and thinking about, or with that pending rule change, how do you prepare for something like that?
Well, we're aware of it. It doesn't affect us in a negative way. Our guys want to get a degree from Notre Dame, so they're gonna get their degree, and then if they didn't play enough football, then they're gonna look to play somewhere else. So it really doesn't. It's not something that we spend a lot of time thinking about. We'll have somebody that monitors and looks at the transfer portal and see if there's the right kind of fit. We did a good job with it last year with Ben and Nick. We'll keep an eye on it every year, but I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. Guys that come to Notre Dame want to get a degree from Notre Dame. And then, if they have more eligibility remaining, like we've had this year, they'll move on and find another place to play football.
Great. And now we have a question from Todd Burlage, whose mic isn't working, so I'm going to ask for him. What are the specific areas where you would like to see Kyle Hamilton improve this season from last?
He's got to get healthy. He's not doing anything right now. So, as you know, he had postseason surgery. He's making great strides. And then we've got work to do. He's a young football player. He played 2 years of football, and he knows he's got a lot to improve on, and we'll get to work on that once he's healthy. But hard to do much right now. He's in our rehab program. Spend a lot of time with our trainers, and I know he's doing extra work with Coach O'Leary and Coach Freeman to pick up our defense. But he's got some work to do. He knows it. We've tried to put him in a leadership position as well. He has a SWAT team. So we're trying to utilize all the things that he can give us right now while he is in fact injured.
And then a question from Angelo DiCarlo was, what is the status of Paul Moala and how is his recovery going?
It's going really well. Fabulous, actually. I think he's got a chance to help us here in the spring, help us or help himself, I guess, more than anything else, is that, there's a chance he could be in 7-on-7 and doing some things here in the latter half of spring ball. He's made great progress with the Achilles. So really, really happy for him. He's worked his tail off to come back. And I think there's a good chance that we'll see some of him in the spring.
All right. Thanks, Coach. I believe that's all the time we have. So thank you very much.
All right. My pleasure. Thank you.